Of course, we have continued to talk on the show about the rising unemployment that we're going to see across New Zealand. And over many, many years, I mean, back in 2014, Nathan Guy came out, about 50,000 jobs were needed by 2025. We're not starting to make a real dent in the side of it. And with a lot of migrant workers unable to come into New Zealand to fill a lot of our jobs, how do we transition? As Richard was saying there, he'd like some airline pilots to milk some cows, and these are overqualified people. Honestly, they will do any job. There is no ego attached to it. However, we have had a major dent to our training organisations from this government with the loss of Taratahi. Of course, that went into liquidation without any government support and foresight for the future of that organisation. Looking forward to being joined by our next guest, Nigel Philpott, CEO of Primary ITO. Welcome to Sarah's Country, Nigel.
Thank you, Sarah.
Nigel, we haven't had a catch-up since you started in your role as CEO, and I know you have been in it for some time now, but I'd love to know your background coming into this role and your passion for this part of the sector.
Well, I've been in the role for 6 months now and having a fantastic time, but my passion is, my last role was actually working with the Ministry of Education. I was looking at the future of education, and one of the things we were thinking about was, how can schools do things differently? How can they engage with businesses and industry, and get people out into more vocational education? So we've got a trades academy within the primary ITO, and that's just a fantastic opportunity for school kids to be in classrooms during the day sometimes, but also out into the field and learning on job. And that's just such an important part of the future of education. Not just sitting at a desk in a classroom and being told stuff to learn is the old school learning. And I'm really excited about. So we were thinking about learning in 2032 and beyond. Once a new cohort of learners come through. So to be offered this role, to come in and think about vocational training now is fantastic, because we're on the verge of a revolution of vocational training, and it's really, really exciting what's going on at the moment.
I know that for a lot of the micro courses that you've established under Primary ITO, is this correct? And then particularly in the wool industry?
Absolutely, micro credentials really important, but they're not the be all and end all. In fact, what we need is a whole toolkit of everything. So whether it's short courses, whether it's informal learning, whether it's formal learning, the real prize, I think, is that apprenticeship and that pathway from schooling, and so people can see where they can come in to start earning while they learn. And they can get into sort of level 2, level 3, and level 4 qualifications, so they can get those qualifications, and they, which takes them on a pathway, on a journey, so they eventually can, up to owning their own farm or operation.
You touched on that, apprenticeships. I mean, we look at our other industries, and particularly the construction industry. It's very structured in a pathway that the farming community hasn't sort of embraced the similar way of being able to hold on to those skills and move them through the sector. And that budget was some considerable money in terms of free apprenticeships, I heard Grant Robertson say, and I also heard a lot of clapping in the House when talked about adult community night education coming back. How can we position ourselves under those sort of pillars?
Oh, look, I think we're really well positioned now, because look, they're talking about the primary sector as the sector that's going to leave New Zealand Inc. out of this COVID problem. We are the sector where we've got $1.6 billion coming into trade training, which is just fantastic. We've been talking for many years about there's not been enough money to support what we do. So the fact is that money, the lion's share of that money is going to probably come into the primary sector. So not only have we got $19 million to MPI for specific issues, but there's also that fees-free money that's $320 million for fees-free. The cabinet are meeting next week to determine where that money is going to go, but I'm absolutely sure that a good proportion of that's going to come into the primary sector. So what I really enjoyed that conversation that Richard had with you earlier, about making it an attractive role. We've really got to think about that, because the youth of today, talking about my experience, actually, my background is the military, and I used to work with people and coming into attracting people into that role. And there's no point in advertising and say, come on in, if they come in and then, it's a terrible job. And it's not a terrible job. It's actually a really good job, but we need to make sure that, those smart rosters, that's really important. So if we want to attract those airline pilots, we've got to make it a good job. And we really can do that. We've got some money that we can really set aside to sort of start thinking about how we think about that pathway, whether it's from school or whether it's from a second career. I'd love to get bankers into the sector, and those people that had enough of that corporate world come on and enjoy what I'm doing. I live out in Makara in Wellington. I've got the best of both worlds. I've got the city life, but I've also go over that hill and live on a lifestyle block with 120 acres, and it's just fantastic. And I think we should attract more people into our sector like that.
Absolutely. We're selling tonight about rural communities and what makes them so special compared to living in town. And that's the thing, is when you are a part of the rural sector, the entire of New Zealand becomes your backyard and your community, because it's so intertwined wherever you travel for a job, particularly. Now, I would really like to turn in terms of down the scale in terms of age. Farmers Weekly has recently launched Ag and Ed, Nigel, and a real focus with the wonderful Kerry Allen that we had on the show last week, and the great work about getting agriculture into the curriculum. Kerry Allen was saying not a cent is going into the work that Agriculture and Horticultural Teachers Association is doing. Are you making sure that you're working very closely with organisations like that to ensure that they do get the funding to make sure ag and hort is discussed within our curriculum?
Yeah, look, absolutely, it's critically important, and we've got a fantastic person called Ginny Vincent that's leading the way in our organisation, and she's doing some great work in terms of our trades academy and working with schools. But I've been saying for a long time, we need to get in. We're into secondary schools at the moment, but we need to be in primary school. We need to get into people's heads much earlier on. To get them thinking about what they might like to do in the future, so that when they get into secondary school and start thinking about the subjects they're going to learn and what their personal pathway is going to be, we want them already excited about the opportunities they can see. That's why I love the Trades Academy. So if we can get young people excited about what they see and get them out onto the farm, into the pack houses, or wherever it is across the primary sector, so they can get excited, and that's what we really want them to do. So absolutely, we're going to be working with organisations like that to think about getting the curriculum, getting business, getting people to go into schools to get them excited, and that's what we've got to do.
It's fantastic having your connections directly within the Ministry of Education. Is there respect for that ability to put our major industry a part of our curriculum, or are they so disconnected because they just simply don't know what they don't know within the ministry of the importance of this?
Well, look, what we were talking about with the future of schools and future of education is that all teachers need to understand. It's not, we don't just want to have one career advisor in a school, because I don't know if you remember when you were at school trying to get hold of the careers advisor, you might get half an hour in a whole year or whatever. But actually, we should be thinking about in terms of, when you get to secondary school, it's not about learning, because you can learn yourself, and a lot of people are learning off different devices and the like. But actually, it's about pathways. So all teachers should be those navigators and helping you think about your place in the world and how you thrive in the world. So teachers should understand, understand business. So I'd love people from the rural sector to get into teaching. It doesn't have to be full time. It can be, so encouraging people into the schooling system. And it's we were talking about building an ecosystem. So it's not just the teacher, but it's bringing in people, and it's making it an exciting opportunity. And that's how we're going to deliver. We need 10,000 people to come in from Kiwis. We're going to have a new cohort of people coming into the sector now, and we're going to have to. We can't do that as one. We've got to do it as a collaboration. So we're working with the new NZIST. That's the old polytechnics, if you like, and we're working with the peak bodies. We're thinking about, and Taritari is going to come back online. So there's lots of opportunities to work together to make it an exciting opportunity. And the money's there. That's the great thing. I was talking to Tim Fowler of TEC this morning, and the money is there, and it's going to flow into our sector. And we're going to have, really transform the vocational training that we do.
Nigel, that is the most positive way to end a show that I've had in the last 7 weeks since we've launched Sarah's Country Live. Thank you. You've just given me a renewed faith that we're in good hands. Thank you so much. It's Nigel Philpott, the new CEO for Primary ITO, talking about the wonderful future ahead for vocational training in the agriculture and horticultural sector.
This is Sarah's Country.